Welcome to Classics Confidential. I'm Anastasia, and I'm talking with Konstantinos Nikoloutsos and Rosa and Andújar, following a very successful conference, The Greeks and Romans on the Latin American Stage. So Rosa, Konstantinos, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So tell us a bit about how this conference came about. How did you become interested in Latin American receptions of classical drama?
Shall I start?
Sure, go first.
I've always worked on Greek drama. I did my PhD in Greek tragedy, and I've always had sort of an interest generally in the afterlife of Greek drama. And my family originally comes from Latin America, and I was aware of some sort of innovative adaptations of Greek drama that had been taking place in the region. And also, increasingly as I've become more interested in classical reception, I knew that there was sort of a large gap in accounts of reception that ignored a lot of these contributions by Latin American dramatists. So part of the motivation was personal. So basically putting on the map something that I knew to be exciting, interesting, and sometimes really challenging work that was just basically being neglected for whatever reason. I don't know if it's a barrier of language or also the fact that the whole region of Latin America is very complex. We're talking about a whole host of different countries. So it was mostly personal, but also, sort of as a scholar who works on Greek drama, to be able, I do think, I'm personally working in the Spanish-speaking Caribbean. This is sort of a new project that I want to work on. And there's a lot of really exciting ways in which they alter myth, but also they have really fantastic choruses. My PhD and the book that I'm working on now has to do with Greek choruses. So I'm very interested in sort of these innovations that are happening with actual fundamentals of the structure of Greek tragedies.
Okay. And for you, Konstantinos, what drew you into Latin American receptions of Greek drama?
Well, I have no genetic relation to Latin America, and I came to this field from another area in classical reception studies. I work on the reception of antiquity, myth, as well as history in the cinema. So in 2008, I happened to be in Buenos Aires. I held a position at the University of Buenos Aires, and I happened to see a film titled Extranjera. It's by Inés de Oliveira César, which is a free adaptation of Eurydice Iphigenia at Aulis. So that was my first interaction with Latin American adaptations of classical drama. I published an article on this field, so one thing led to another. In 2010, I organized a panel at the annual meeting of the Classical Association of the Atlantic States, then a panel at the 2012 American Philological Association meeting, and then with Rosa we organized this very successful conference here at UCL. Meanwhile, I worked with some people back in the United States on this field, and we published together the first collaborative special issue on the reception of Greek and Roman drama in Latin America.
I thought part of what made the conference so successful was this bringing together of people from different fields, so not only classicists, but also scholars of Latin America, and of course, a lot of people from Latin America. How did that, wonderful combination come about?
Yeah, well, I think from the beginning it was important for the both of us to make it as interdisciplinary as possible. Again, we're dealing with a very complex region, and every country obviously has a separate literary tradition. And within that as well, for various reasons, the development of theater comes about in very different ways. Yes, in most of the countries you have sort of Spain as sort of as a motherland, but the Spanish were very different colonizers than the British were, and so you don't have the same system of education. So again, the lines, you don't have any sort of, you don't have a group of people who, again, these are the dramatists who are trained in particular ways to do with the classics. So people have come about, Greek and Roman authors in a variety of ways. So you really need to deal with that complexity, and you need a number of different specialists, obviously in area studies in various disciplines, like people who specialize in theater, sort of different theater histories, classicists as well, because unfortunately, I mean, the little attention that some of this material has received, usually people don't know what to make of the fact that some of these dramatists are engaging with the ancient world. So you really need sort of a whole variety of perspectives to be able to treat it properly. So that was, I think we wanted to build that in from the very beginning, and sort of issued a wide call of participants, and wanted also to bring in lots of people who can contribute and can, you know, again, properly address the complexity and the diversity of the region.
I know this is a very, very tough question, especially when we are covering such a large geographical and chronological span. But why do you think the classics appealed to Latin American theatre practitioners? I mean, why the classics and not, say, I don't know, Spanish theatrical plays? Or Portuguese, of course.
Oh, of course, yes, that's the other
Brazil.
Absolutely.
That's correct.
I don't know if you want to take that.
Well, I think that classical drama, the stories that have provided the subject for the surviving tragedies and comedies enable Latin American playwrights to express concerns, to put in the foreground a number of ideas that are related to the particular sociopolitical moment in which these plays are produced. And we're talking about a wide range of ideas, from national identity and gender to race and trauma. So classical drama provides a vehicle, if you want, an allegory for Latin American authors to express themselves and interrogate and negotiate the present through the lens of the past.
Taking it from the classical perspective, what do you think we as classicists can gain by looking at these Latin American receptions?
Well, a number of things. Well, again, I think the region has seen what I mean, obviously, maybe I'm biased, but I do think there is quite a lot of experimentation with the form and structure of Greek tragedy in particular. So you actually get quite a lot. I mean, again, because some of these people, especially some of these dramatists who are tinkering with Greek drama, are doing so, I guess, maybe in the early part of the 20th century, when they partly, I guess, want to be in dialogue with other European dramatists, but there is because you don't have sort of these direct lines of tradition, there is, I feel like, there's, I think, a bit more freedom to experiment. So you do have, for example, this wonderful 1948 Cuban play, which this is Virgilio Piñera's Electra, which, first of all, I think is the only ancient or modern adaptation of the Electra play that has Agamemnon who's still alive. And so you have this weird, this unique dramatic situation where you have, obviously you're still centered in this crazy family, but you know, Electra, I mean, can no longer mourn. Her father's still alive. Orestes has never left. So there's that, you know, so there's all this sort of level of tinkering, and of course Clytemnestra is still carrying on with Aegisthus, so there's all this level of mythical play, but that, you know, that wonderful tragedy, or it's not really a tragedy, I should say, but that wonderful drama, because he does blend in other sort of aspects of, you know, some comical and parodical aspects, but has a chorus. And wonderful, and what's wonderful about that chorus is, I mean, obviously, I mean, I get very excited when I see a chorus in an adaptation of a Greek tragedy in the modern world, because generally most people tend to ignore it.
Yeah,
you know, or
cut it out, size it all
absolutely,
together.
it's, you know, it's much easier that way. But this chorus is basically made up of a lone peasant who is singing. I mean, everybody who knows anything about Cuba probably has heard of the song Guantanamera. The chorus is set to that tune of the Guantanamera, and it's basically, and it's something that frames, you know, the chorus appears at the beginning and end of each act. So it's basically also thinking through, or thinking of the ways in which the structure of Greek tragedy works, but basically adding, you know, an important and neat local element.
Well, building on what Rosa said, the presentism is so prominent in these plays that invites us to see them as symptoms of their artistic and sociopolitical context, which in a way is characteristic of all the reception of the genre in other geographical areas. Most writings of classical drama reflect a particular juncture in the history of the country of the production. However, what is fascinating about the reception of the genre in Latin America is that it invites scholars from the Anglophone world to rethink, to reconsider certain concepts, certain ideological constructs which we use in our academic discourses in a manner that is almost mechanical. For example, canon. What is the canon? A lot of these plays, like for example, Electra that Rosa referred to, it's a play that attempts to inscribe itself in the Western canon by redefining the canon. Again, what is the West? A lot of these authors write by looking at the production, the literary production of the West, but at the same time they look south in Latin America and they interact with aesthetic, with artistic movements in the region, such as the movement of modernism. Another important issue that Latin American recreations of classical drama invite us to think is what is so classical about classical drama.
Well, thank you very much, Rosa and Konstantinos, for coming on Classics Confidential and talking about your conference. We look forward to hearing more in the near future.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.